Welcome to this week's social studies lesson. We're going to be learning about South America. As always, your learning slides this week have connections to everything in the presentation. Just click on the links. We are going to study about locations this week. There's going to be a teacher lesson in class, which this video will be that. The videos to learn more about South America, practice, and of course going beyond for students who want to learn a little bit more. If I go to this slide, these are the locations we're going to be learning in South America. It's not all of the locations, but it's a good start for us to know these places. We have Brazil, the largest country in South America, Argentina, Chile is a very thin country right here, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, the equator actually goes right through here, Ecuador and the equator, Colombia, Venezuela. Those are the countries we'll be learning. We have 3 oceans we're learning as well this week, the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and the Southern Ocean. There is a mountain chain in South America that we need to know. It's the Andes Mountains that goes from all the way in the north to the south. And there is a river we need to know, which oddly enough is not on this map right now. It is the Amazon River. It starts about here and goes inland here. This is where it goes. And we've got the Amazon Rainforest as well, which we'll learn about a little bit this week. Let's go to our next slide. This is a study story for this week. There is a separate video for you to watch to learn the study story. It seems silly, but if you learn the story to this continent, you will learn the countries and places we need to know for the quiz. Trust me. All right, the teacher lesson will be posted here after I finish recording it. As always, we are studying about places through the lens of the 5 themes of geography: location, place, region, movement, and human interaction with the environment. Let's take a look at location. Well, where is South America? I can see on a world map that South America is right here. I can determine that it is in the southern hemisphere for the most part. I can decide that it's in the western hemisphere. I can compare it to where some other places are with my cardinal directions. I can say that South America is southeast of North America. I can say that South America is southwest of Africa. If I wanted to know the absolute location of something, the whole continent would not be absolute, but I could find a place like Rio de Janeiro and give the exact coordinates. That would be an example of absolute location. So there is where South America is. Let's take a look. We're not going to do this in this video. We may practice it in class, but remember that you can stop this video at any time and practice these skills. So when we find coordinates, which are examples of absolute location, we first find a number's or a location's latitude, latitude, then we find its longitude. So let's do point B just for fun. So what is the latitude of point B? I follow my latitude line over. I can see I'm 10 degrees north. North of what, you ask? North of the equator, because here is the equator here. 10 degrees north is where my point B is. Now I'm going to look for the longitude of my point B. I follow my longitude line and I can see that it's 60 degrees. 60 degrees what? 60 degrees from the prime meridian. But what direction would that be if I'm in South America? It's in the western hemisphere, so this would be 60 degrees west. 60 degrees west of the prime meridian and 10 degrees north of the equator. You can do the rest on your own and when we do it in class. What's the place like? Places, what is it like there? Well, I can look at South America and I can see a physical map, a political map, and a satellite view from space. I can see on a physical map the physical features of this area, including the Andes Mountains here, including the tropical rainforest of the Amazon rainforest. I can see the political divisions, how humans divide up this continent in all of its different colored countries. Those are all separate countries. Humans made those boundaries. And I can see from a satellite view, I can see the mountains of the Andes. I can see actually the Amazon River. I can see the Amazon rainforest in bright green here. So those are some helpful things to see. Also, when we're talking about what is a place like, we talk about its climate. Well, what's the climate like in South America? On this map, I have a climate map. I can look in South America. I'm going to use my handy dandy key or legend, and I'm going to say, wow, it's got a lot of red. What is that? This red is tropical. That means it's hot and humid all of the time, year-round, hot and humid. I can see that it also has some arid areas, and if I am smart, I know that arid means dry. So these are desert areas, these yellow areas. I can see black in this key or legend, and that's mountains. My Andes Mountains go right in here through South America. I've also got some green, which is temperate. We actually live in a temperate area. Temperate means in the middle. It's hot in the summers, it's cold in the winters. We have 4 distinct seasons. So this would be more seasonal and change with temperature over time. But we learn about place. We always got to learn about what the climate is. Some other things about place. We learn physical characteristics of place like landforms. Here's a list of landforms. You can pause this video and read the definitions. It's a challenge for you to learn these definitions for a future quiz. We will be talking about them in class, and we will be talking about them this year with a lot of examples, but here are some more reminders of definitions for you. We have some physical characteristics in landforms. In class, we will be taking a look at trying to find each of these areas in this picture. So can you find an island in this picture? Go ahead, find an island. I'm finding one right here. Here's another island I can find right here. There's some smaller islands. Find a peninsula. A peninsula, what is that? A peninsula is an area of land that sticks out into the water and is surrounded by water on 3 sides. Let me see if I can find a peninsula. Well, here's a peninsula right here. You can see that peninsula. I can also see this peninsula sticking out here. Those would be 2 good examples of a peninsula. A strait. A strait is a narrow body of water that connects 2 other bodies of water. And so if I'm looking for a strait in this picture, I think my best example would be between these 2 countries. Between Cuba and Puerto Rico, there's a narrow body of water here. I'd call that a strait. A coast. A coast is the area along the edge of the water where the water meets the land. Anything along here would be the coast. Sometimes the coast is sandy, sometimes it's rocky. A gulf. Well, we know the most famous gulf in our year is the Gulf of Mexico. The Gulf of Mexico, a large body of water, partially surrounded by land. An isthmus is a narrow body of land connecting 2 larger bodies of land. When we learned about Central America and the country of Panama, we learned that those were both isthmuses. Here's the Captain Hook-shaped country of Panama. It is an isthmus connecting South America to the rest of Central America. And of course, we have an archipelago or archipelago, depending on how you say it. That is a group or chain of islands. And I can see a group or chain of islands that I know are the Bahamas. Or this could actually be a group or chain of islands here. Let's take a look at some other land forms that we need to know this year. A mountain chain. I can see a mountain chain. The Andes Mountains right here. A bay. That one's a little challenging. A bay is kind of like a smaller gulf most times. The Hudson Bay is actually quite big. We know that. So here's a bay. Here's a bay. This could be considered a bay. A coast. We already did a coast. We should know that that's the land along the water where it meets the shore. An island. Here's an island. Here's an island. A lake. A lake. Well, here's a lake right here. Is there another lake we can see? There's a small lake right here. A peninsula. Remember, a peninsula sticks out into the water. So I would say a good example of a peninsula. This could be considered a peninsula. It's a short peninsula. This could be considered a peninsula. Maybe this could be considered a peninsula. And a strait. A strait is where it's a narrow body of water connecting 2 larger bodies of water. There's a strait right between these islands. Okay, it's connecting this water and this water. Right between is narrow would be a strait. Those are great examples. We'll do some more in class. When we're studying about a place, like we're studying about South America this week, it's also important to ask, well, what kind of landmarks are there? That's part of place. Well, there's some very famous landmarks in South America. Machu Picchu, one of my favorites. We will talk about a story in class about my experience with Machu Picchu and almost dying because I decided it was a good idea to hug a llama really up close. So I almost didn't get to see Machu Picchu because I was in the hospital, but luckily I survived to see Machu Picchu. Easter Island is another famous landmark that's off the coast of Ecuador. We have Iguazu Falls. Those are beautiful sets of falls. And we, of course, have Christ the Redeemer statue that looks over Rio de Janeiro. That is a famous landmark in Brazil. Place, we study about animals. Here are some animals that they have in South America. Different parts of South America have different animals, depending on the climate and the biome that it is. So obviously the Amazon rainforest would have a lot different kinds of animals than, for instance, in the Andes Mountains or in Patagonia in Argentina. So lots of different kinds of animals. But you will notice these animals are quite different from what we're used to in New England because our climate is different and our place is different. Plant life is always something we look at when we're studying about place. A lot of this is vegetation that's green all of the time. Lots of flowers that are flowers all of the time. Because of the climate is so warm and humid all of the time, different kinds of plants tend to grow in a rainforest. And in the mountains, there would be different kinds of plants. In the desert, there would be different kinds of plants. These are mostly jungle plants that would be in the Amazon rainforest. When we study about a place, we also study about human characteristics. What are the people like there? Well, let's start with looking at population. I have a world population map for us here, and I can see all of the red areas, the bright red areas are the highest population. So on our continent of South America, I can make an observation that most of our highly populated or urban areas are located along the coast. That is something that is very common throughout the world. And then more inland, I can see this white area is rural, exceptionally rural, meaning almost no one lives there. This is all rainforest. This is all mountains. A lot of this is barren land down here, rocky barren land. Let's take a look at some more things. Movement, the theme of movement, how do things get around? Well, here are some exports of the different areas. We remember from our previous lessons that exports means going out. EX means exit. Soybeans, copper, transport equipment, natural gas, petroleum, sugar, beef. What do we have? Copper. What do we have over here? I think that's most of it. I can't read that small. So those are a lot of exports. Here's another map showing a lot of exports. That means they're sending it out to other countries, and that's a form of how they make money in their country by exporting. And I'm sure they will import things as well. Human characteristics, language. It's always important to look at what we're studying and where we're studying and what languages do they speak. The majority of this is Spanish and Portuguese. As you can see, there is some English, Dutch, and French up here at the top, and that is a result of the exploration that took place from Europe, right? These countries were taken over by countries in Europe that claimed them as territory, and then, of course, they would carry down their language. So we can assume that Spain came and settled these areas. Portugal settled this area, English, Dutch, the Netherlands, and France. Let's see, what are people like in South America? Well, lots of different kinds of cultural differences in what they wear, what they believe, their religion, their holidays, their traditions, their language. Lots of things come under the heading of culture. And South America is a very large continent with lots of different kinds of cultures, just like any other continent. We will take a look at this in class, but we like to, when we're learning about a place, we like to learn about, well, what is their education like? What is their drinking water like? What's their unemployment like? Because studying those things tells us a lot about that country and how successful a human being can be expected to be in that country and how difficult a life might be in that country versus in a more wealthy country where they have more opportunities for things. We will talk about that in class, but basically, we always talk about the importance of healthcare and access to medicine and doctors. We talk about the importance of literacy and knowing how to read and write. And we talk about unemployment and drinking water, because drinking water is so important to have and have clean drinking water. Oh, that scared me. That was an announcement. Sorry. All right, so we will talk about this in class, but basically, Brazil and the United States are fairly comparable in terms of healthcare, education, poverty, things like that, slight differences when we compare those two places. We'll also look at Venezuela in class. Region is how a place is like other places. Well, we already know that South America is in the region of Latin America. We've talked about that when we've learned about other parts of this side of the world, the Western Hemisphere. But there is also different regions within South America. So the Caribbean North, the Andean West, the Southern Cone. They're very different in terms of climate, animals, plants, culture, people, location, that they're their own regions. Movement, more movement, the theme of movement, how things get around. Well, we have imports and exports that we talked about earlier, but we also have different forms of transportation and different kinds of rules and laws in countries. You wouldn't see this kind of thing in the United States because we have laws for safety that don't allow for people to ride on the tops of trains. But there are some places in South America that you would see this if you visited, that people are trying to get from one place to another, and they jump on a train to make that happen. So movement. Remember, that's a theme of geography. Human interaction with the environment is a theme of geography. And I've just highlighted here a bunch of disasters, natural disasters that have occurred in South America. It's common for earthquakes in South America because remember the mountains, the Andes, is some fault lines, areas in there that would cause the earth to shake and shift. So earthquakes are very common. Flooding is common, some hurricanes in the northern parts. And of course, erosion would be something people need to get used to protect themselves from. Human interaction with the environment. One big thing about South America is the cutting down of trees, and we call that deforestation. When we cut down too many trees and we don't replace them, that's called deforestation. And one of our problems with our planet right now is that we are cutting a lot of trees down without replenishing them, and that is causing a problem for our global oxygen. And there's a lot of things wrong with that we will get into in class. We can help with deforestation. We can plant trees. We can use reclaimed wood instead of cutting new trees down. We can recycle paper, right? By recycling paper, we're not cutting down new trees to make new paper. We're using old paper to make new paper. So we'll talk more about this year about deforestation and how we can help the planet with recycling and reusing. Human interaction with the environment. Here we talked about earlier that South America is common for earthquakes. You can see right here, this whole area is common for earthquakes and into Central America as well. Human interaction with the environment. Remember that people who live on the planet oftentimes hurt the environment. We do that with pollution. We do that in a number of different ways. So you can see here in highly urban areas that don't have rules to regulate how much exhaust comes out of cars or out of factories, we have a problem with air pollution. We have a problem with water pollution. We have a problem with trash. And this affects animals and it affects the environment. The Amazon River is a major portion of learning about South America. We can see here the Amazon River has many different tributaries. It's a very large basin. This is called the Amazon River Basin. This is called the Amazon River. It is a very beautiful place to visit. Also can be pretty dangerous in parts, depending on the different kinds of animals that live there, like piranhas. I'll be honest, I'm nervous about piranhas. I don't think I'd go swimming in the Amazon, as well as like crocodiles and things, alligators that I don't want to run into. So we have tributaries and rivers. These are all tributaries, smaller streams or rivers that feed into a larger river. And of course, the Amazon River is a river. The Amazon River is the Amazon rainforest is known and considered the lungs of the planet. It's such a large area of trees and growth. And remember that plants give off oxygen and they take in carbon dioxide. We need oxygen and we breathe out carbon dioxide. So we have a relationship with plants. Plants give us oxygen. We give plants carbon dioxide, and that's a great relationship to have. But when we cut down a lot of trees and start getting rid of that oxygen, then we reduce the amount of oxygen on our planet. And that might not be the smartest for a group of people who rely on oxygen. So Amazon rainforest is so large that it's really considered the lungs of the planet because it produces so much oxygen for us as humans. The Amazon rainforest is very famous for lots of different animals, lots of different plants. There's some videos you can watch this week to go beyond. This is called the canopy of the rainforest, so you can see what it looks like on the top. And then the layers down within the rainforest are very differing in what kind of animals live in each area. Of course, we have the Andes Mountains. The Andes Mountains are very different from the rainforest. You can see on this map, the Andes Mountains go from the north to the south, and the land looks a lot like this. There are some areas where it is more humid and hot. There are some areas where it's very cold because of the elevation. The air gets much thinner when you go up in the Andes. I can tell you that from personal experience. And a lot of the areas are dry as well. Llamas are very common in the Andes, and we will talk about a story in class where here's the moment it happened, my friends. Here's the moment that I decided kissing a llama in the Andes Mountains, because it was on my bucket list, was a good idea. Turns out it wasn't a good idea. And this is showing exactly where I got super sick with a parasite and then ended up in the hospital thinking I was going to die. Thank goodness I didn't die. But here is the culprit right here. No, lesson to you. Do not kiss a llama that rolls in its own filth in the Andes Mountains. It's not a smart idea. I'd do it again, though. I really would, because I really wanted to hug a llama in the Andes. Here is another picture. This is me trying it the second time. This is in Vermont. I decided not to kiss this llama and not hug this llama, and I wore a gas mask just to make sure I didn't get more parasites, because it was a horrible experience for me, everyone. Machu Picchu, one of my favorite sites in the world. This is an ancient Incan ruin. This was an ancient civilization that made terraced buildings, and they did terraced farming, and it's just a very fascinating place. I highly suggest you learn more about Machu Picchu by watching one of the videos we have this week. There are some amazing videos for you to check out this week to learn more about South America, some fun facts, torture videos, going beyond, and we'll do some practice in class as well, making sure that you are ready for the quiz. And I think that brings us to the end of our presentation for South America. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you take advantage of some of the videos this week to go even further and learn more about this great continent. Have a great day.